Hey, everybody. Welcome to this edition of Turnaround Marriage. It's been a minute since we did our last one. We've been pretty crazy time of year, but we are excited to dive in with a really important subject that's near and dear to our hearts. And if you're out there and you're realizing, my goodness, we've been struggling with arguing, we've been struggling with communication, we've been struggling with whatever it is in your marriage for a long time, and like you've tried to fix those things and it's not working, well, today is exactly the place you need to be.
Yes, we're going to be talking about treating the symptoms and not the problem, which is what so many people do in their health and in their marriage. We're going to talk about that. But we are Scott and Rachel. We do help committed Christian couples finally end cycles of conflict and disconnection and reclaim the love, passion, and playfulness that they once had. So if you're watching on Facebook, give us a thumbs up and say hello. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and hit that bell so that you can subscribe and not miss any of our content. We are here to encourage your Christian marriage. So we're glad you're joining us.
Absolutely. It's fair to say we're playful behind the scenes on these videos too.
It's fair to say.
It's fair to say. So guys, I want to share with you, like yesterday, this all just kind of came together in my mind. Yesterday, I went hiking with my one of my sons, and when we were coming home, it was really late for I guess late for lunch, but we didn't want to just buy whatever out in whatever. Didn't want to just get McDonald's. So we stopped and we grabbed a beef jerky bag to share. And we came home and then I ate lunch after that. It was a late lunch. But then I kept starting to feel worse and worse and worse throughout the day. And I don't typically eat beef jerky, but I didn't even think about it. And I've been just going throughout the day. And by the end of the evening, I just started getting a really massive headache. Now, this was very common for me years ago. It's not so common anymore. Mm-hmm. And what happened was it was like, I put it two and two together and I looked up the manufacturer. Sure enough, monosodium glutamate in the package, in the jerky, which always gives me a headache. And wow. So here's the realization, though. Here is my reality years ago when I wasn't looking at the labels and I was just eating whatever food, is I had headaches all the time. Mm-hmm. Like it was not uncommon for me to have Excedrin multiple times in a day, almost every day.
Yeah.
That was the norm.
Headaches were totally normal.
And it was like my problem was my headaches, but no, they weren't. My headaches were telling me the problem is the crap that you're eating and the stuff you're putting in your body. Guys, look up MSG. Totally bad for you. And he was like, okay, crystal clear. I see it. And see, guys, this is exactly the same type of thing that happens in marriages.
Yes, we see it all the time. You know, we see symptoms coming out like we hear couples that come to us for help all the time and they'll say, well, we just have terrible communication. Guys, this is a symptom, right? Yeah. Or we just constantly argue. We just don't know how to talk to each other. We don't know how to get along anymore. Or, we have a sexless marriage. The sex is so infrequent that it's just non-existent just about. Or, my spouse has cheated on me. They've gone outside, they've had an emotional affair, a sexual affair, whatever it is. And so these are all symptoms of underlying problems. And if you think that all I need to do is just work on my communication, or all I need to do is just, start having sex again, or whatever it is, there's always something underneath that's causing it. It's just like a diagnosis of headaches. It does not tell you why you're having headaches. A diagnosis of headaches tells you something is wrong.
Yeah, I also had diagnosis of migraine headaches.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I had the meds for it.
Yeah. And it's like, if you're just going to treat the symptoms and then keep covering up what's actually going on, that's not gonna help you fix the problem. Some of our clients come to us and they have poor emotional regulation. They just fly off the handle. They don't know how to control their temper and those types of things. But again, that's not the actual problem. There's always something underneath going on.
Absolutely.
So that's what we want to try to help you get to the heart of.
Yeah, and it's so true. And that really is the state of the American healthcare in a lot of ways. I mean, I don't want to go down that rabbit trail too much, but it's like, okay, you've got this symptom, here's a med. That med's causing other symptoms. And therefore now you have the diagnosis of these other symptoms and you start taking meds on top of meds on top of meds. And you're pretty soon in a big ball of confusion. Of course you are, because you're dealing with the symptoms and not the underlying problems a lot of times. Mm-hmm. And so, it finally took the right doctor, and we've shared about Dr. Spradlin before, to really educate us and help us to see, like, you've got to be careful. What are the things you're putting in your body? Because it's garbage in, garbage out. Of course, it logically makes sense. And so it's the same type of thing, guys. We get in these patterns in our marriages, And these patterns, along with the symptoms of the problems, really create these problems getting worse, or maybe even manifesting other problems. And so sometimes it can look like multiple problems. So it's this and it's that. And it's like, we just can't talk. We just can't get on the same page about things. We have a differing opinion on finances or kids. Or the big one we hear all the time is, we're just different people. Like, ding, you're right. Of course you are. You are different people.
Mm-hmm.
And you're a man and you're a woman. And despite what our culture says, men and women are different, and they think differently too. So guys, here's the bottom line: is people try to solve these problems. Then they realize they're not communicating right. And they think this is the problem they see, which is actually the symptom, and they try to solve it. Maybe they'll actually go, because they're usually, honorable Christian couples. They'll want to own it, and they'll want to go before the Lord. Maybe they go to the altar and pray. Maybe they're repenting before one another, and maybe they're really trying to own them. And it's really heartfelt, and it's genuine and real, and it changes for a little while, and then they go back, because still they're repenting and trying to change the symptom of the problem. And maybe they even go to classes or read a book about some of those symptoms, and they start treating them, and things start to seem okay, but then they're reverting back.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that?
Yeah, we see that. Well, it's because often, we can just talk about the problem, and even often, you can go pay to have someone listen to you and you can talk about your problems and, feel better, at the end of the session, but really nothing is changing. Mm-hmm. And that happens frequently with people who come to us for help, because the traditional models of working with this type of problem hasn't worked for them. It hasn't worked for them. Often, people are numbing themselves. They're trying to figure out, I don't want to fight anymore, so I'm just going to drink. I don't have the energy. Or I'm just going to scroll, or I'm just going to check out, or I'm just going to go shopping, whatever it is. Right. Filling that void with, some way to numb the pain. And instead of really getting to the bottom of what it is that's actually going on. Mm-hmm. And then when people get with their girlfriends or their moms or their best friend or whatever, or their counselor, it's like you feel validated to be able to complain about your situation, to be able to complain about the symptoms that you're noticing, like, oh, he just never listens to me, or, oh, she's such a nag, or, oh, we just fight constantly and he just totally misunderstands me. And we have all these stories that we, mm-hmm. We start to assign meaning to it. And it's like, but what do we need to get underneath to the beliefs that are happening underneath.
Yes.
Why are we treating each other that way? Why are we communicating that way? Why did we step outside the marriage bed? Why have we done these things? And there's always something underneath.
It's so true. And what can happen as well is when you are trying to navigate those things, and you are numbing, and you're trying to escape, and whatnot. And a lot of times the numbing itself creates other problems,
always
other regrets. It's going to have if the marriage is not going well, it's going to have ripple effects in your job, in your body, in your parenting, in your relationships with friends and family. Like, it's just not going to get better. Mm-hmm. And so what can happen is, when you are numbing it and the problem is getting worse, then it's even more so, you begin to complain about those symptoms. And you begin to get isolated, and you realize, like, I've really tried. How many times do we hear couples say, I've really tried for 12 years to change things, but he just won't change? Like, that type of thing we hear all the time. Like, okay, you're fighting really hard to change maybe a symptom, but not really the problem. And what happens is, when you see those symptoms and they're still there, and the problems, the repercussions caused by even the numbing, is like, you're left with either you're at fault, or your spouse is at fault, or both of you is actually the truth. But people tend to blame the other person. Mm-hmm. And when you get to blaming the other person, it's really hard to resolve it, mm-hmm. when you're just pointing fingers, mm-hmm. because you really both need to own the underlying problem, because the symptoms are not the problem. So you really have to get to the heart of the matter.
Yeah.
So it could be that you've never been really all in your marriage. It could be, especially if this was like your second marriage, or you've lost your spouse, or even after divorce, like you've like, well, I'm going to just put my foot in the deep end of the pool, but I'm not actually going to swim. Like I'm going to see how things go before I really give her my heart, before I really go in and connect with her children. Or I'm really going to go all in even in the beginning of just your first marriage, like not really giving your heart, soul, and mind to one another. And it could be that you've never thought truly of marriage as you thought of it maybe just as a partnership, almost like a business venture, and not so much as a covenantal vow that you've taken before God. And maybe you've not understood that. And you've not understood how God sees marriage, but really been acting as though this is a transactional thing. Or it could be that you've not actually trusted the other person very much.
Yeah, those are good, Scott. Other things that are coming to mind, it's like it could be that you have been holding on to unforgiveness or bitterness or resentment again for whatever they did in the marriage to hurt you. And it's like you say you forgive them, but in your heart of hearts, you're wishing ill on them. You're holding it. You're nursing that wound. You've not truly let go and canceled the debt, which is really what forgiveness is. And in other cases, it could be that you are not believing that you or your spouse is an actual image bearer of our God and our King, right? How often do we tell ourselves terrible things and say terrible things to ourselves, or say terrible things about our spouse or about our situation, and we can find everything that's wrong instead of celebrating the things that are right. And if we don't believe that, if I don't believe I'm an image bearer and I don't believe I have any worth or any value, how am I going to be able to love someone else when I don't even like myself? It just doesn't work. And so it's these underlying beliefs of if there's just this deep hatred of yourself from childhood or whatever, or a deep hatred of the opposite sex because maybe what your mom or dad did to you, these things can come out then, in ugly language and in inability to connect and that kind of thing. Or it could be that you just expect your spouse to make you happy. And it's like you go into marriage thinking, well, this is, you make me happy, you complete me. And then all of a sudden, when they don't, well,
they could never complete.
You're out.
No, they never could.
Yeah. And so, guys, if any of these are resonating for you, it's probably going to take another person to help you look at it from an objective point of view and help you to kind of see the blind spots and see the things that you cannot see for yourselves. Because when you're in the midst of it, all you can see is your own pain. All you can see is your own heartache and all, your tears, your prayers that feel unanswered, your situation that feels so hopeless. And it's like, let someone come alongside you. This is exactly why we offer a complimentary breakthrough call for those of you who are in a place of hurting and really wanting to heal your marriage, wanting to come to that place of a decision to fix the marriage instead of just wallowing in where you're at. And so if that's you, we encourage you to go to turnaroundmarriage.com/call and go ahead and book a time that will work for you, that you can definitely make it. And if possible, if your spouse could also make it. If your spouse has checked out of the marriage and you are wanting to fight for your marriage alone, that does not exclude you. We want you to know it only takes one committed person to save a marriage in many, many cases. And so if that's you, again, you can go to turnaroundmarriage.com/call. There's a short questionnaire. Fill that out to the best of your ability so that we can serve you on that call. And this can really be the best 45 to 60 minutes investing in your marriage.
Absolutely. And we just have a few slots left for the whole week. Things are really booked up pretty, and they do quickly this week. And they do from time to time, but here is the heart of the matter. There's a lot of times that people say like, this is going to have to take a long time to fix this because I've been trying to fix this for a long time. That's the belief. And that might be the reality if you're treating the symptoms because you're never getting to the underlying problem. The beauty in this is that when you can address the problems instead of the symptoms start to dry up real quick. And it's really amazing. And so, if we are the best fit for helping you, we're absolutely going to make that clear on that call. And if we were, it's so fun. It's so fun to see couples to have quick turnarounds in their marriages because you absolutely can, because healing can happen quickly when you address the problems.
Absolutely. Yeah. Instead of just taking, headache medicine and keep on eating the MSG, it's like that's never going to get you the healing that you want. In the same way, let's get to the heart of it and let's really help you get that breakthrough that you're looking for.
Yeah.
So turnaroundmarriage.com/call, and we'll see you next time.
Take care.